time, so I'll go ahead and kick things off and wanted to greet everyone and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules this morning to join us. Of course, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jeff Rent, the president and CEO of your chamber. Now, I'd like to call on our Greater Jackson Chamber Partnership 2020 annual meeting to order, and providing us with today's invocation is 2020 Chamber Ambassador Chairwoman, Pastor Tanya Ware. Pastor Ware.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads. Father, in the name of Jesus, thank you for this great day and this annual meeting. We praise you for bringing us together and for your mighty hand of comfort that held us all during the trying times of the pandemic. Thank you for sustaining us and for the great leadership this chamber has been blessed with. We ask for your wisdom and strategy upon each person in leadership as we advance forward. Thank you for bringing restoration, increase, and expansion to all businesses and business leaders, both here and across our great state. We arise and engage. Lord, be with us. Help us to do our part to bring about positive change in our communities. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for those very strong words, Pastor Ware, and thank you for your continued support of the chamber and, of course, your involvement with the ambassadors. So it's rather fitting that this meeting this year is over Zoom, and hopefully that's a trend that will not persist, at least to this level as we move into 2022. And of course, we hope by January of next year, we will be back in person. And I think we all have a tremendous appetite for that, but we want to do so responsibly and safely. Now, this meeting would not be possible without the support of all of you who are with us, including our two presenting sponsors, which are Bancorp South and Butler Snow. And of course, our Ambassador of the Year and Chairman's Council sponsor, Phelps. And you'll be hearing from both of them in just a little bit. We appreciate everyone's support of the chamber and of course of our annual meeting. I also need to take a moment to thank our board of directors for their constant support and tireless work, especially through the unique challenges that all of us have faced in the last year. Now, specifically, I want to thank outgoing Chairman Joseph Moss and incoming Chairman Jeff Good for their guidance and counsel. Now, we had a number of tough conversations over the last year and a half, but these two leaders are both focused on solutions. And today, of course, we are stronger for their leadership and commitment. And I'm proud to call both of them my friend. I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank Johnny Maloney and Alan B. and of course, Dwayne O'Neill for their continued support long after their leadership obligations have ended, which is a testament to their character and of course, their commitment to service. Now, usually at these types of events and around town, it's my face that you see, but it's really my team behind the scenes who are the real strength of this organization. That's Debbie Green, Cynthia Buchanan, and Stephen Latham. And I hope all of you will thank them for the countless hours that they have dedicated to your chamber and the hard work during the pandemic to share critical information. And trust me, there was a lot of information moving, and these were the folks who were creating products and vetting the information that we thought was most beneficial to you, our members. Finally, I'm excited to announce that we're also launching a new benefits program aimed to add additional value to your chamber membership, as well as adding products which can help attract new employees or retain your current workforce. Now, this program is called Creative Chamber Benefits, and we have partnered with some best in-class vendors to bring great benefits at even greater discount to you, much like we do with the Office Depot program. So very important there. Guardian Dental and Vision and Life products at an 8% discount. NetChecks Payroll, which uses cutting-edge technology to make payroll simple, to automate the employee experience. And one of the most exciting parts is the Creative Benefits Bundle, which is a unique blend of non-traditional benefits ranging from Teladoc, which is a telemedicine program, to identity protection and legal services. And it's a cost-effective way really to attract and retain talent in a competitive workforce environment. So we will be sending you additional information soon about these programs. And in the meantime, you can learn more by clicking the link in the comments section of this meeting, or please feel free to contact any of us here at the chamber. Now, keep the program moving. I would like to introduce my friend and the 2020 GJCP Chairman of the Board, Joseph Moss. Joseph is the Regional President of the Southeast region for Bancorp South. And with 28 years of banking experience, he has also been with Bancorp South for the last 18 years. Now, many of you may already know about Joseph's banking career, but what you may not know about Joseph is he also served almost 27 years in the 172nd Airlift Wing of the Mississippi Air National Guard, where he retired in 2013 with the rank of Command Chief Master Sergeant. This man truly is a public servant. Please welcome our 2020 GJCP Chairman of the Board, Joseph Moss. Joseph.
Thank you, Jeff. When my good friend Johnny Maloney of Cowboy Maloney's passed the gavel to me last year so that I could chair this great organization, I had no idea that it would be such an interesting year. And an interesting year it was for all of us. Who could have imagined that life as we know it would come to a grinding halt as a result of a respiratory disease that is believed to have started in a wet food market located 7,820 miles from our capital city? Who could have imagined that it would result in over 587,000 deaths in our country, over 7,300 in our state alone? I know that you join me in thanking the medical professional heroes that work tirelessly and put their own lives at risk to save so many. The pandemic was a first for most of us as we saw schools shut down, our children adapt to virtual learning, employees work remotely, neighbors and family members remaining in their homes for weeks at a time. And of course, we all learned about this new way of communicating called Zoom. But you know what? You are some of the most hardworking, resilient people in the country. We refuse to let this virus stop the drive that so many of you have. We adapted and we quickly learned that what we needed to do to protect ourselves, our families, and we became very creative in order to keep our local businesses moving forward. Your Greater Jackson Partnership never stopped working for you, your business, and for Mid-Mississippi during this challenging year. We quickly learned to conduct virtual meetings. We constantly work to keep you informed of the Coronavirus Aid and Relief Economic Security Act, also known as the CARES Act, which allowed $2.2 trillion to be pumped into the U.S. economy. We saw over 87,000 paycheck protection loans for over $4.6 billion processed in our great state of Mississippi. Many of you played a critical role in processing these loans in an extremely timely manner, as you knew that so many of our Mid-Mississippi businesses needed these funds to help their employees survive during this challenging time. To all of you that participated in the processing of these loans, thank you, as you too are heroes. You absolutely made a difference. Your Greater Jackson Partnership played a very important role in helping to bring several positive changes to our state and to Mid-Mississippi during 2020. We are very appreciative of the support provided by Energy Mississippi, as their involvement has played a critical role in the success of so many projects. Just a few of those were as follows. We finally saw the adoption of a new state flag that we can all be proud to call our own. There's no doubt that this change will create more economic opportunities and help to improve the overall quality of life for all Mississippians. We also saw the completion of and the grand opening of the Museum Trail in Jackson. Thank you so much to Dr. Clay Hayes and David Farr and so many others for the tremendous amount of work over several years that went into this project. This trail will be enjoyed by so many for so many years to come. Through the hard work and determination of so many, Southwest Airlines has announced that they will be returning to the Jackson Medgar Wiley Evers International Airport. Thank you to the Airport Authority, Mayor Lumumba, Curtis Upkins, and his team for this great accomplishment. We saw Amazon announce the construction of its third fulfillment center in Mississippi, which will be located in the town which I grew up in Canton, which will create over 1,000 full-time jobs with an economic impact of over $50 million. This will be just one of several corporations to locate in the Madison County mega industrial site. Congratulations to my good friend Joey Deason and his team. We saw UPS announce a new $28.6 million development plan for the city of Ridgeland. This will create approximately 160 jobs with average annual wages of $57,000 or greater. We witnessed the construction that's just taken place throughout the year at the old Mississippi Hardware Building in Vicksburg, which will be the home to the Mississippi Center of Innovation and Technology, or MCITY. This project will provide many opportunities for education in technology, entrepreneurship, and startup training. Great work by Mayor Flags, Dr. Jeff Holland, Pablo Diaz, and the Vicksburg Warren County team. This project is one that will provide benefits for our children and our grandchildren for years to come. Congratulations to Tom Troxler and the Rankin First team on the Refuge Hotel and Conference Center project. This property will feature a 200-room luxury hotel, 54,000 square foot conference center with a lazy river, rooftop bar, and golf course with many other amenities. Your staff has been very busy. As you may recall, the partnership relocated to its new home in the heart of the capital city. We are now located just behind the Governor's Mansion and across from Smith Park. If you haven't driven by Smith Park at night recently, I encourage you to do so. Many of you have worked with the Downtown Jackson partners to help light up Smith Park at night, and it is definitely a game changer. It really looks so much better after cutting down some trees, planting new flowers, and again, the addition of the lights. Through all of the changes, we continue to keep you informed by offering our Bringing Washington to You virtually. We enjoyed creating opportunities for you to speak directly with Senator Roger Wicker and Representative Michael Guest. Through sponsorships and ticket sales for these events, we were able to raise funds for the Blair E. Batson Children's Hospital and the Lily Pad Cafe, which is a workforce development initiative for individuals with development disabilities. We're also fortunate to be able to add to our staff. Stephen Latham joined our team to help with research and design. This addition will allow our team to be even more successful as we compete with other southern states in trying to attract top companies to this area. I want to offer a sincere thank you to Jeff Rent, who was named our president and CEO, Debbie Green, Cynthia Buchanan, and Stephen for all their hard work during 2020. Because of this hard work, along with a very dedicated board of directors, we were able to finish the year ahead of budget by reducing expenses while still providing you the partnership needed to grow Mid-Mississippi. It has truly been a pleasure to work with you. I also want to thank each of you, our members, for your support, as we could not provide this level of service without you. Your investment in the partnership is absolutely making a difference. I'm excited about the future of our team as Jeff Good will continue leading us going forward. I don't know that you could find a harder working business leader to take us to the next level. As you all know, Jeff has given all to help promote Mid-Mississippi. Jeff is the co-owner of Broad Street, Bravos, and Sal & Mookie's. Jeff Good is a difference maker, and we are truly fortunate to have him as our chair for 2021. At this time, I'd like to thank Bancorp South for supporting me through the years and for allowing me the opportunity to work with the Greater Jackson Partnership. With our headquarters being in Mississippi and with 23 locations in mid-Mississippi, we are very excited to support this great organization that is making a difference. I could not have served as the chair without the support of my Bancorp South teammates. They truly go above and beyond each and every day to take care of our customers and to support our local communities. I would also like to recognize Laverne Edney and her team at Butler Snow. Laverne?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am the chair-elect of the Greater Jackson Chamber Partnership, and I'm an attorney with Butler Snow Law Firm. Butler Snow is pleased to be one of the sponsors of today's virtual annual meeting. It is an honor to celebrate all that our Greater Jackson businesses have accomplished over the last year with you all, and you've heard many of those things today from our chairperson. As we all know, 2020 was a challenge, from the pandemic to the unusual weather events and natural disasters to Zoom meetings and homeschoolings, just to name a few. We all certainly faced our fair of challenges. However, 2021 seems to be a brighter year already for our community and its businesses. At Butler Snow, we are excited for what this year may bring for the greater Jackson area, as well as the state of Mississippi. If we can ever be of any service to you and your businesses, please let us know. We look forward to gathering in person next year to again celebrate our outstanding business community. Thank you.
Thank you, Laverne. Now we'll turn to Mike Hurst with Phelps Dunbar to announce our 2020 Ambassador of the Year.
Hey, Mike, you're on mute.
You really should have heard that introduction I just did for you. We here at Phelps are pretty excited today to introduce the Greater Jackson Chamber Partnership's 2020 Ambassador of the Year, Ms. Weta Watson. Ms. Watson recently retired from Research Logics Marketing Research and has been an active member of the Greater Jackson Chamber Partnership for almost 25 years. She's been a member of the Ambassadors Council for more than 20 years and served as the chairman about 10 years ago. Weta was an active member of our Metro Teachers Recognition Committee, and she currently serves on the board of Kinetic Etchings, a contemporary dance and theater company. Ms. Watson is very engaged in the community and volunteers not only for the Greater Jackson Chamber Partnership, but also with New Stage Theater, the Alumara Hall, and the Brain Injury Association of Mississippi. Ms. Watson has also been willing to lend a hand to the Chamber at its events over the years, and she's been a dedicated member to attending ribbon cuttings to welcome the newest members to our business community. So again, congratulations to the Greater Jackson Chamber Partnership's 2020 Ambassador of the Year, Ms. Weta Watson. And now Phelps Dunbar would also like to congratulate the 18 ambassadors that earned a seat on the 2020 Chairman's Council. Congratulations to all of you for serving our community on behalf of the Greater Jackson Chamber Partnership.
Thank you, Mike, and congratulations, Weta, and all the ambassadors. Thank you for all that you have done for the partnership throughout the year. You continue to go above and beyond, and we're grateful for each and every one of you. Again, also thank you to Phelps Dunbar and to Butler Snow. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do, and both of your organizations are truly instrumental in us moving forward. Thank you again. Now, if you will, I would like for you to join me in viewing a video that was provided to us. We did an interview with Dr. Thomas Dobbs recently, and we'd like to share that with you now. For the past year, Dr. Dobbs has worked with Governor Tate Reeves to help lead the state's fight against the COVID-19 pandemic in Mississippi. Dr. Dobbs, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
First, let's take a look back at the end of 2018 and early 2019 in regard to COVID-19. What were you hearing about this new virus, and what were your fears?
You know, early on, there was a lot of uncertainty. You know, we saw what was going on in China, and really, unfortunately, there was really not clear data coming out from China for us to really know what to expect. But once we had some good information, we did see a mortality rate around 1% to 2% for infections, which was consistent with kind of what we're seeing now, around 1% to 2% of diagnosed infections leading to death, which is pretty high. We had actually had models for a pandemic based on the degree of infectiousness and the mortality rate, and we had predicted about 150,000 to 200,000 deaths for the country. There were a lot of things that really surprised us. How fast it got into the United States. You know, it was here before we knew it. Our diagnostics weren't up to speed. But the other thing is some of the, there was such a lack of cohesion between our sort of social mitigation efforts, right? I think most people went too far or too little. And there was really a sweet spot in the middle that prevented infection, but supported economic growth. And we struggled to find that sweet spot in the middle.
Like the rest of the country, in March of 2020, Mississippi shut down nearly everything except for essential businesses and operations. How hard was it among the state's decision makers to make this move in the face of considerable public backlash?
Early on, it wasn't very difficult because people were clamoring for it. Even businesses, even restaurants, believe it or not, were saying, hey, we need to slow down for a while. At the time, it wasn't really nearly as controversial as it might seem now. I can remember we had extensive discussions with the governor and his team, and they were very, very, very open to making sure that the essential business listing was extremely broad. So as many people as possible could stay active as safely as possible. And if you think about Mississippi, we really only sort of closed down for a couple of weeks, more or less, except for certain businesses were affected longer, like bars and restaurants, unfortunately. But Mississippi's been up and running for most businesses, especially for like manufacturing and that sort of thing. Only had a little bit of interruption in operations.
Dr. Dobbs, can you address for us how Mississippi fared as far as the mortality impact to the state based on those early models and then where we ended up?
Yeah, so I've got some interesting slides. If you don't mind, I'll share them for everybody to look at. And let's see, I think you guys can see those. If you look at our mortality curve, you can see that we had three basic significant mortality waves. Our first one here in the spring was mostly nursing home folks. We just know how vulnerable they are. And once the coronavirus got into the nursing home, it really spread rapidly. As we did more aggressive infection control and had a better understanding about how best to protect our folks in those long-term care settings, you can see the mortality shifted more and more to people who were in sort of like the younger age groups who weren't in nursing homes. And then as we came into the winter, and this is really something interesting to see, you can see that it was majority of non-nursing home folks, right? We were doing a better job of protection. So those prevention things do work. But then if you look, really right when January was hitting, we were starting to ramp up our vaccination effort. And we saw a massive drop off in the deaths in long-term care folks, right? So now we just have a random one death in a nursing home. So it's really beautiful. And our mortality has dropped remarkably as we've done a really good job immunizing our older folks. Right now, more than 70% of everybody who's 65 and older is protected with the vaccine. And some subset of those who are not protected by the vaccine have probably had COVID already and have some residual immunity. But if you look at our overall mortality, you can see that we had a lot more deaths this past year than we've had in previous years. This is a cumulative effect. I think some people have assumed that these are people who are going to die already. The vast majority of these people would still be alive today if it were not for COVID. It looks like we're going to have more than like 10,000 excess deaths in Mississippi from the COVID pandemic so far, and it could get worse if something unexpected happens.
Now, you brought up the vaccine, and obviously the pandemic is still ongoing, and vaccine is being distributed very efficiently now across the state. But recent reports indicate that fewer people now are receiving maybe the second dose or even their first dose. What can we do as a business-related organization with about 1,400 members to ramp back up the administration of the vaccine and convince people that this is a life-saving effort?
I think there's a couple targets we need to consider. First and foremost, we really got to protect vulnerable folks. I'll be honest with you, most young folks will get over it just fine, right? So if we're thinking about from an individual safety perspective, if you're over 65 especially, but even if you're over 50, there's a significant mortality rate, people 50 and older who get COVID, or if you have diabetes or hypertension or one of those things. So really, I think through the work site sort of wellness or anything like that, try to make sure your vulnerable people are protected. But as far as an operational perspective, to keep from having outbreaks and absenteeism and that sort of thing, the vaccines are extremely safe. They're widely available. And so any communications you can do or whatever we can do with you to sort of communicate, the efficacy, the safety of the vaccines. And we are enlisting more and more partners. And if you want to do an on-site vaccination effort at your place of business, we will have a mechanism to support that. So please be thinking about that for your folks. Both communication and access are going to be huge.
What was your strategy as far as the State Department of Health goes to reach underserved communities? I mean, that was probably a big challenge and the forethought in the beginning when you were getting vaccine out. The strategy, and then how did you actually achieve them? Because it seems that service did really improve over the initial days of distribution to those hard to reach communities.
Yeah, so going into this, we knew there would be some issues with disparities in underserved populations, whether it's rural or whether it's African American or Hispanic communities, and so we aggressively recruited partners early on, especially within community health centers, who take care of a lot of folks who don't have insurance. We worked with hospitals and other clinics. We set up a network of centers of excellence that would do community vaccinations, hospitals and clinics. And then we also, we did all the drive-throughs. Now, the drive-throughs were very good at efficiency, but they weren't well attended by minority populations or underserved. So recruiting partners was huge. Getting input from especially the Black community, Black religious leaders were fantastic with us. And so within a few weeks, before anyone else in the country even got close, we had full vaccine parity where 38% of the population is Black and 38% of the vaccine was going to Black folks. We've maintained that going on, and what we're seeing right now is this sort of strange effect we didn't really quite anticipate. It's rural, more white populations are kind of sluggish getting vaccinated. It's people who have access to vaccine, but the motivation is not quite as intense. So that's a different challenge we're having to work through, especially now that the risk seems so much lower, right? I mean, we're not seeing as many cases, as many deaths. So the urgency doesn't seem to be quite as much, but it's a new challenge. COVID pandemic's not over, and we'll continue to fight.
Dr. Dobbs, I know the rate of positive test returns and deaths attributed to COVID-19 have declined over the last few months, but messaging from public health officials has remained steady. And now certainly is not the time for us to let our guard down. Are you afraid with relaxing safety actions like wearing masks and social distancing that we could see another spike in infections?
It does worry me. If we kind of look what's going on in Michigan or other parts of the country, they're having pretty significant, runs up. Now, the good thing is, and I really appreciate CDC taking these stands, is that where they see safe things that can be done, like they recently released guidelines for outdoor activities, right? So basically it says if you're vaccinated and you're doing something outdoors in a small group, you don't have to wear a mask. And if you're not vaccinated, they do recommend you wear a mask. If you go to like a ball game, a stadium, they still think you got to wear a mask even if you're vaccinated, if it's super crowded. So we are doing more and more stuff. So I think there are safe things to do, and having clear science-based guidance is important. But I think some common sense things are worth doing. And right now, crowded indoor things, especially around unvaccinated people, is still a risky thing, especially now that we have these variants coming over, right? Luckily, the variants that we've seen so far in the United States seem to be highly susceptible to the vaccine. So the vaccine still works great, the Pfizer, the Moderna, or the Johnson & Johnson. But there are other variants that could be coming if we're not careful. So we want to build up our immunity so that we don't let them in, right? So we're doing way better. There's no doubt about it. We can see the finish line, right? We're not at the finish line, but we can see it. So it's encouraging, but we don't need to sit down right now and just expect the finish line to come to us.
So let's look into the crystal ball real quickly, because you're talking about that finish line. We can see it off in the distance. In your opinion, what do you think the rest of this year is going to look like for us? And then into 2022, as are we permanently going to be carrying masks with us? Vaccine distribution, like the flu shot annually. What are you seeing among your peers and what's being discussed?
A lot of it depends on the variants and how they take hold and what they look like. So that's the unpredictable thing. I'll just go ahead and say it out there. But based on the strains that we see now and sort of what has affected mostly Mississippi, probably what we're going to see is a little bit of a low way, sort of like a low grade, sort of like a ebb and flow. We'll have little outbreaks, increases, and a decline, kind of coming and going. We'll have some outbreaks here, outbreaks there, until we can get more holistic, immunity for the population. I'm hopeful that as that happens, we'll see this more as a sort of putting out, spot fires rather than fighting an entire, massive forest fire where we can sort of react piece by piece. As far as the mask thing goes, I think that as more and more people are immune, we'll see the restrictions come off more and more. And in Mississippi, I think a lot of communities have already embraced that, whether it's recommended or not. But where we see vaccinations, especially for older folks or vulnerable people, we're not seeing those bad outcomes. Looking further into the future, as far as masks and vaccines, I don't think that we're seeing any need for booster shots of the current vaccine, right? So of the immunity waning such that it's a problem. But if we get a new variant, like a new strain that is somehow, more deadly or, gets around the vaccine, we might need to get a booster shot down the road. It's hard to predict. And as far as the mask thing goes, the fact that, and this is true, this really did happen, is our flu season was really minimal. We did have flu, but it was mild. We didn't have very many cases or many deaths. And it looks like that there probably are some scenarios where masking works. And I'll tell you, in the clinical setting, the clinical environment, it makes sense to wear masks when you're taking care of a sick person who has an illness. We've seen the illnesses among healthcare workers drop. I'm not saying you would do it all the time, maybe in airports and other things like that. I mean, I'm considering that may be something I do for the rest of my life, because I don't know how many times you've been traveling and you catch something traveling and you're miserable for a week after you get the cold or flu or whatever. So I think there may be some unique situations where we think masks might be useful, kind of like the Orient, like the folks in the Asian countries do. But I think this broad, widespread mask thing is probably going to be over before too long.
Dr. Dobbs, jumping away from this very important topic, Jackson is home to the state's largest medical corridor and medical teaching institution. What does the future of healthcare and medical research look like in Central Mississippi?
We did get a pretty good glimpse of the healthcare challenges in Jackson during the COVID pandemic. And what is frighteningly obvious is that there is taxed healthcare infrastructure, especially within hospitals and ICU care. So if you have a car wreck or if you had a heart attack or whatever, we see that the health systems in Mississippi are really at the brim of, and this isn't always just COVID, right? It's because Jackson is the referral center for most of Mississippi. So that does need to grow so we can take care of folks. It's also obviously an economic growth opportunity to build out that health infrastructure. But we got to train docs and we got to keep docs in the state of Mississippi. And that's going to be the biggest challenge. And nurses, we need way more nurses, our nursing shortage. So physician workforce, nursing workforce is going to be a huge thing that we can work more on. There are efforts to add additional training locations, family practice, internal medicine training rotations in smaller communities. I think that's going to pay dividends. A lot of those folks will end up gravitating toward Jackson because that's where a lot of the jobs are and a lot of opportunities. And as far as the research perspective goes, there are really good opportunities. I think UMC has done a fantastic job sort of expanding its research footprint. But then again, we got to have quality folks. I was sad to see that Mississippi's population, declined with the recent census. And I think y'all saw that. And I think that's a challenge for us. We need to make Mississippi really attractive to young people to stay, young professional folks, or maybe once people get, because it's really a great place to live. It's a great place to raise a family. And maybe once when, the 22-year-olds and the 26-year-olds decide they want to have a family, they want to move back, and live here and grow their families. But I tell you, I've got 2 kids and I really don't think either one of them are going to stay in Mississippi, which is sad. I just don't think that the opportunities are there for them like we would like. And one of them is going to be a doctor and one of them is probably going to be a computer engineer. So we need to keep our talent.
Well, you're exactly right, Dr. Dobbs, and we want to continue helping support that in any way we can. The Greater Jackson Partnership focuses on that really daily. We focus on improving healthcare in any way that we can. We focus on improving the quality of life throughout mid-Mississippi and throughout the state. But we certainly want to see the growth continue in the medical field within mid-Mississippi and increase the opportunities for people to come here and learn and study. And then certainly we want them to stay here and raise their families here. We do certainly feel like we've got a lot to offer, and we need to do a good job of telling our story and focusing on the positive things that are taking place in mid-Mississippi. Day in and day out, we look for opportunities to improve in those areas and to improve businesses in mid-Mississippi. And we certainly want to thank you and all the other healthcare professionals who have led us through this pandemic and will continue to lead us through this pandemic. So thank you. All of you are truly heroes. And thank you so much for what you've done day in and day out. And thank you for being a part of this interview. We certainly appreciate you again and all of your team. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you all for your support.
All right. Thank you again to Dr. Dobbs and his team. They are truly heroes. They've absolutely made a difference. And we're so proud of the leadership that he's provided us during this pandemic. It is now time for me to pass the gavel to my good friend, Jeff Good. Jeff, Thank you for all that you've done in the past, and thank you for leading us in the future. I look forward to seeing great things take place in 2021 and beyond. The gavel
there we
has been
have it.
passed.
It's very nice right there. Ow. Joseph, thank you. I'd like to share some comments as well. So if I may, I want to share what an honor it's been to work with the men and women of the Greater Jackson Chamber Partnership over the past few years. This is not my first tour of duty. I had a tour of duty way back when in the 2000s and rolled off the board and came back this time. And it's been an extraordinary experience. We've had so many changes, from moving our offices twice, to the selection of our new president, Jeff Rent, to the realignment of our focus and our activities, to the great shutdown of the pandemic that we just talked about. And now, as we go through these reopening times and the revitalization of our local, state, and national economy, and just, that piece with Dr. Dobbs was just taken, 7-10 days ago, and already so much has changed. It's such a dynamic thing that's happening. All these changes, but one thing has remained constant. Two incredible tenured staff members of the Chamber, Debbie Green and Cynthia Buchanan. Their unbroken presence and their astonishing institutional knowledge are North Stars for our organization in more ways than one. I want to ask that each of us participating today take a minute and thank Cynthia and Debbie for their efforts. Whether you do it via chat comment, an emoji, or whether you just clap in your seat, Debbie and Cynthia, they're true heroes and they are leaders. And when we talk about leadership in business, we talk about attributes like strength, vision, grit, stability, and drive. I wish to take a moment and point out the obvious, that my immediate predecessor in this chairperson seat, Joseph Moss, is the embodiment of these qualities and more. Joseph has been there every step of the way over the last few years as we have worked to bring this realignment to focus and to fruition. With Alan B. and Johnny Maloney, Joseph planned each step, he plotted each course, and he executed with positive and tangible results. We are all in debt to Joseph, to Alan and Johnny, but particularly so to Joseph, as he has taken us to safe harbor. Thank you, Joseph, for all your efforts, and for the spiffy gavel too. Looking forward, I'm blessed to have assembled a leadership cabinet that will ensure our work will continue. My chair-elect that you heard from earlier, Laverne Edney, and our treasurer, Ed Gardner, reflect the best qualities in local business leadership, and each has agreed to lead a key area of focus for us as we march into the future. What are these key areas? 3 fundamentals: regional economic development, diversity, inclusion, and equity, and quality of life. Economic development is bread and butter work for chambers, and ours is no different. But what is unique about the Greater Jackson Chamber Partnership is just that. We're a partnership of communities, many of which they have their own more localized chamber and economic development entities. Our role has traditionally been to help each community maximize its opportunities while we coordinate with state and regional economic development organizations to compete against neighboring states and regions. This year, we're trying to take our coordination efforts to higher levels, truly trying to find ways to financially and operationally share in resources so the metro area and each of its components are as competitive and as cooperative as possible. I'm well known for saying working together works, and this effort, led so competently by Ed Gardner, is proof of this motto. The last year has brought about a mainstream visibility of issues of equity, equality, and access. Social justice is no longer something for the legal or nonprofit worlds. It is smack dab in the middle of the business world. And all of us as business leaders need to not only acknowledge the challenges, but to work to understand, embrace, and engage. Our nation needs our genius and our drive, and our fellow citizens need our empathy and our collaboration. Laverne Edney has agreed to lead our diversity, inclusion, equity work, and her committee has been meeting regularly with the plan to bring forth some best practices and options for online and in-person trainings and experiences which can build the skill sets of CEOs and mid-level managers across our communities. Here is an area where working together truly needs to work. And finally, and Dr. Dobbs mentioned this, many within the workplace can now choose where to work thanks to the overwhelming proliferation of remote teams, Zoom, and home-based offices. To this end, the worker of tomorrow can choose where they live without any consideration of what they do. An internet connection replaces the daily commute. The Sun Belt is a growing region with thousands of people moving to the Sun Belt each month. Traditionally, Mississippi has struggled to get our fair share of the action. And one way to enhance our standings is to enhance our attractiveness. Quality of life is a catch-all phrase, but for us, it means the amenities within a community, the worth of these components, and the ease of access to services, amusements, and divertissements attractive to the needs of the workers of tomorrow. David Farr is no stranger to this work, and he, along with Dr. Clay Hayes, former Greater Jackson Chamber Partnership Chair, and many others, spent the last decade working on one such piece. Joseph mentioned in his comments, the Museum to Market Bike Trail. This central piece serves as a catalyst to connect suburban bike routes that could become one huge loop, taking someone north, south, east, and west. There are plenty of studies that show that housing values are higher when there are bike trails, and this is one example of working together to make something work for all. And it's something we should applaud, and we need to replicate with more projects. So that's it. That's our work product. Economic development, diversity, equity, inclusion, and quality of life. 3 footings to a foundation that will lift our communities up and keep them elevated for generations to come. If one of these speak to you, then I ask you to join us and join in our efforts. Send us a note and we'll connect you with the team leaders. Let's work together. Let's leave our communities better than we found them. That is the true mark of leadership, stewardship, and advancement. And already y'all are sending me texts telling me that you want to join in. That makes me happy. But let's do it to Debbie Green, shall we? Thank you all so much. And I was petrified that I was on mute and I wasn't. Yay!
Thank you, Jeff Good. I truly look forward to working with you in the future. I know you're going to do great things leading this partnership. Great things are coming to Mid-Mississippi. Again, thank you all for participating today. Thank you for all that you've done in the support in the years past. We look forward to a great future and a great state. Thank you all. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.